I have some questions. Some big questions. Can we hate less and share more love? Can we keep going until we cure every disease? Can we make sure nobody is left behind? Can we find the courage to go further than we have gone? Can we change our ways before it's too late? Can we push our limits beyond the sky? With technology and humanity, we can go further together. Vodacom.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So good to have all of you join us for another edition of Loeries Creative Hour. It's going to be an absolutely amazing one. Welcome to everyone that's also joining us on Facebook. Just a reminder, if you're joining us on Facebook Live, we're sitting here in Zoom and we cannot see your messages, but I'm assisted by Clocky and Prudence from the Loeries who will be able to pass your questions on to us. So please remember, if you have any questions and you're viewing via Facebook Live, please still feel free to share and be part of the conversation. Before I share more, I want to say hi to our guests. So Neo Sokolo, who's the Chief Creative Officer of Draftline, and Zamazwide Nxumalo, who's the Creative Director at Publicis Groupe. Thank you both for joining us.
Hey, Preetesh. Thank you for having us. Really excited to have a conversation.
Amazing. So before I get into it and share a little bit more, I think I'm not sure if Neil will be able to join us too soon, but she's on the call. But Zam and I will have a chat in the meantime until we can get Neil on as well. But Neil's on the call and should join us in a little bit as well. So one of the key things that I think is really, really important to absolutely highlight is a huge thank you to Vodacom, who are our partners who have connected the session. So thank you to Vodacom for helping connect the industry and connecting Loeries Creative Hour and being such great partners itself. One of the things we are going to go into, and I'm sure everyone wants to know about Zama, so feel free to hop in here. One of the things that we announced this week that everyone is so keen to chat about is the fact that the Loeries is going to Cape Town. And this means it's going to be live. Because you're in Cape Town right now, right?
No, I'm actually in KZN, so you can see the little bushes.
I never know where you are.
No, I'm in KZN for the next 2 weeks, but yeah, I do live in Cape Town and really excited about the Loeries. Hopefully I'll be there soon by that week, actually. Yeah, really exciting. I will. Not hopefully, I definitely will be.
You will, because I will tell you the dates for everyone who wants to know. So, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are going to be watching this late in the afternoon tomorrow, and so late in the afternoon tonight and tomorrow and the next few days, because they want to know what's happening. So this is the best place to find out. So Loeries is coming to Cape Town, and thanks to the city of Cape Town for partnering with us to allow us to be able to come to Cape Town and hold an amazing event. Key thing that's going to happen is it needs to be an absolute safe event for our industry to bring everyone together. So remember, get those vaccinations or get those negative COVID tests, because that's what's going to help you gain entry into the Loeries this year. It is happening from the 20th to, say, 23 and a half, till the 23rd of October. The key days are the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, and we're working on having some amazing stuff planned on the 23rd as well. But on the 22nd, we'll be doing the huge handovers of the trophies. We will share more details and more granular details over the next few days. But what you should be planning is that if you want to be part of this, make a plan to be in Cape Town from the 20th to at least the 22nd. Those are the days. You need to absolutely be in Cape Town for everything that we have planned. It's a different Loeries Creative Week. So I think for everyone who's attended Loeries Creative Week, when we could get 10,000 people together over the week, that was amazing. That's obviously not going to happen in that type of form this year. We have to be realistic in terms of the environment we're in right now, in terms of government mandates and regulations in South Africa where we hold the event. Because as you know, we're joined by everyone from across Africa and Middle East, and these talks are viewed by our entire Loeries community across Africa and the Middle East. So it is happening in South Africa, and we are forced to follow some of the protocols here, which some of you may not be aware of. And the key challenge with these protocols are that we are only allowed currently to hold events of 100 people outdoors and 50 people indoors. We're hoping that changes, and if it changes to the next level, we'll be able to have a lot more people. But there's some exciting things planned. So either way, if you're in the industry and you want to network and you want to jumpstart this industry and get this networking again that really moves us forward, remember, you got to be in Cape Town at the end of October. So anyway,
I'm sure all the creatives are jumping up and down right now.
It's been, as you can see, in everything we do, even if you look at a little screen in the back there, it says "Fight the Good Fight," Zama, and you.
Yes.
And Zama, as a member of our Loeries Youth Committee, you're aware of some of the discussions that we have.
Yeah.
It's a challenging time for the creative community, isn't it?
It's difficult, yeah.
It has been, because our community really genuinely thrives on the energy of each other, which means that we want to get together. We want to get now multi groups to get together and have a discussion and crack a problem together and be able to solve it. I think we've just lost now.
Yeah. And also, you know what, another thing is that a lot of people in the past 2 years actually haven't even met their colleagues. So if you started your job this year, you might not even have seen your team face to face. So it's been very difficult for creators, but we're getting out. We're getting our vaccines. We're getting happy.
but I mean, getting back to our topic, which is probably why in any agency environment, you're not Neo.
Who's that? Maybe they're helping her set up her things.
I know. I'm wondering, there was somebody who accidentally came in and used the appropriate word. That was a good, that explained. So that was actually quite a good segue into it. Because the big challenge that we have is obviously in the industry is that it's really tough. So we're fighting this good fight. We're going ahead. But I mean, how does the industry let off steam? So normally it was we get together, but now, I mean, how many different colorful swear words do you hear in the agency environment when you're there on a daily basis?
You make them up as you go. People make them up as they go. It's what keeps us alive, I think, and you those swear words come from the people you least expect them from, so that's definitely it's how we let off steam. And I don't know how now, because you can't really swear on a Zoom call, because number one, it's recorded.
You can,
or on a Teams call. We can.
Whoever
what I'm saying is that in meetings, or when you do get together with your colleagues virtually, you're more careful and you're more cautious of the words you use, because it is being recorded. You don't want anything held against you. Whereas in the normal agency environment, you'd be walking across the passage and drop a big ass F-bomb, and 10 minutes later, people would have forgotten about it. So,
Well, so one of the reasons this topic actually came about, and just to share with everyone as well, there's been a lot of chats in terms of mental well-being and mental health and this is by the creative industry. It's not just brand communications, it's across the creative industry, whether you're in the art space, whether you're in the performing arts, so actors, like all in that kind of space right now. What we're actually finding, and this was an interesting article that actually sparked it off, is that it is really tough, because as a creative, you have to crack a number of different issues and a number of different problems. But in doing that, there's a lot of stress that you have to deal with as well. So maybe Zama, just tell me about some of the experiences. I mean, you've been in the industry for a few years. You're still considered a young creative in our industry. But for somebody who's still considered young, what are some of the key challenges that you have faced from a mental health perspective in the industry?
Well, it's a whole tale. I think that the biggest challenges are when you're still breaking in and you literally come in as an intern or as a junior, and you feel like your voice is not heard. You've got amazing ideas, big ideas. You write them, all 10,000 of them, and you want to pitch them, and chances are they'll never be seen by clients. So that would be the first point, I think, of real frustration. Obviously, you'll get frustrated in college or university when you still, honing your creative craft and you're still trying to figure things out. But entering the real world, entering the industry in general, is very heavy on the mental health. And you'll see a lot of young creatives end up, you know, falling into alcohol, and I'm going to be honest about this, even drugs and things like that, so that they can try and cope with you know, the late hours, the, you know, hard, difficult clients, difficult creative directors. So it is very difficult for a young creative starting out. And then as you go up the ladder, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it gets better, but you become stronger. You know, as you continue to fight the good fight, you realize that you become stronger, your voice becomes louder, and you can deal with situations better. But the mental health is still very difficult, you know, to handle things, because it's a different client every week, it's a different situation, it's a different deadline to meet every week. But you do get stronger, and by the time, because I'm like not that young, almost, I'm almost out of the youth category, where you end up just accepting.
You're still youth. No, you're still young. If you want to have an age comparison, like, let me start. We can do it. But
Okay.
On this call, you're definitely the youngest person. So don't worry, you're still quite young.
Yeah. So I think what happens is when you, as the older you grow and the more experience, because maybe age isn't really the biggest factor. It's about experience. The more experience you get, the more you learn how to handle situations, the more you learn to actually also clock off, because a lot of creatives actually don't clock off. Our brains are working from 9 in the morning until 5 the next morning. You're even dreaming of campaign, you're dreaming of concepts, you're dreaming. So the older you get, you learn, okay, at 9 o'clock, even if it's for an hour, 9 o'clock at night, because that's my time, 9 o'clock at night, or when my son decides to go crazy, I clock off, and that's me time. And then you let off that steam, you become a human again, you know, your own human. Because there's a creative director of mine who used to say, it's amazing how creatives don't lose their minds, especially in advertising, because today you're a doctor advertising a pharmaceutical, tomorrow you're a shoemaker, the next day you're a TV channel, you know. So you end up having to tap into all these different mind spaces, which could drive you crazy. But experience and taking care of yourself.
So Zama, remind me again, how many years have you been in the industry now?
So I am 30 now, and I started when I was 19.
There we go. We were trying so hard. You did it.
I forget. So it's about 19, 20, 21, 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 12, 15 years, let's say 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I'm talking shit. Oh, sorry. I'm lying. It's like
15. Yeah.
Oh, I started when I was 19. So I'm not good at maths. I'm a
11.
writer. 11 years. There we go. I've been in the advertising industry for 11 years.
So if we have a look at it, and I mean, I think what's important is to have this honest discussion that when you stumbled, somehow ended up in the creative industry, as everyone has their different stories in terms of how you came. Did you realize the amount of stress that you would be experiencing in this industry when you actually came?
No. So I went to the National School of the Arts, so I was familiar with the creative industry, and I knew it was stressful. But as I said, when you're younger, you're more naive. You're just thinking, good times, fun times. You're just on TV, you're doing cool things. The stress I realized when I got into college. At the AAA School of Advertising. But the creative industry in general is fun. You don't want to think about it as a stressful one. But it hit me as soon as I had to wake up one morning and have to be in a creative catch-up, you know, and catch taxis and do whatever. So my very first day at work in 2012 was when I really, really felt it hard. But I think the anxiety of creativity fuels us. It does create that tension. You do want something to stress you out, and because we're problem solvers. So I can't really pinpoint in the creative world when that happened, but work-wise, in terms of the advertising industry, definitely my very first day having to come to the office, not sure if I should dress like a fancy girl or if I can come through looking weird.
But I mean, so having a look at this and having a look at the experience that you've had. So you've started off in the industry, and maybe it's good with 11 years, there's a way you can actually track the experience and everything that's happened. So you started off maybe not realizing some of the challenges, and this goes for every job. I mean, every single, if you if you're in any job, anywhere, if you're in employment, and we should all be thankful to be in this weird world that we're in, when you're in employment, it's stressful. And there's a lot of things that you have to deal with. But I think also when we look at it, and over here today, our focus is on the stress of the creative environment. I mean, how when you got in, how did you learn to actually start relieving some of that stress? Were there programs internally? Were there things that were happening? So were there programs internally that was planned by the organization? Or two, was there something that you as a group of colleagues did that somehow relieved that stress? Or did you find a way to do this in a very personal way? Or was there another option? How did you find a release for the stress?
There were two ways. I did it personally myself. I'm quite outgoing. So every second day I would be out meeting people, talking to people and letting the stress out. But I came up during the rock star generation, and there was a lot of day drinking. That's why I said, like, the substance abuse needs to be discussed as part of the mental health of young creatives. There was a lot of day drinking happening, going out with colleagues for lunch, actually spending time with the people that you're stressed out with, because they understand what you're going through. So maybe before a pitch or during a pitch, we'd go out, have some drinks, talk about things, blow off some steam, swear at each other, swear at our clients who aren't in the room. But it was mostly the agency itself. The agencies themselves don't have programs to deal with the stressful situations. They talk about it a lot, especially now in the past 2 years. I know in my agency, there's a in-house therapist who you can speak to. But before COVID, before that, I don't think people thought that much about, taking care of creatives' mental health. Like, you see them, they go out and they come back hungover in the morning, and you assume they're fine, they're able to present, So it was mostly on me and my colleagues that I work with. And I was lucky to have older guys who were kind of like big brothers to me, and were able to take care of me. And when I'm super stressed, they'd be like, Zama, chill out, maybe take a day off,
So would you say that maybe COVID's been challenging and created so many issues, but maybe there's a little silver line that's come about? And is that silver line that the focus on mental health in our industry and the need to actually tackle that is now top of mind?
Definitely. People are kinder to each other. They're more sympathetic and empathetic of people's situations. Back in the day, when someone would be late for work, it would be a big deal. But now you understand that, hey, things are tough. Not everyone's got quick access to transport, or they can't leave because their child doesn't have someone to look after them. So COVID has made people less of assholes to each other, and we're just kinder. Back in the day, when someone is not cracking a brief, the creative director would swear at you. Like, I remember my first creative director tore my copy deck, and I was like, this is shit, Sarah. Go write 10 more. And I was like, oh my God, you hate me. Whereas now, when I review a copy deck from one of my writers, I'm more empathetic. I understand, okay, maybe he didn't have enough time to write it, so I'll spend more time with him instead of shouting and being an asshole. So I think, and I've seen it a lot in different agencies as well, where people are just kinder and gentler. And I think with the generation that's coming up as well, they are gentler. They are quite expressive of themselves, but you don't need to be horrible and mean to them for them to get them to do their job, or to reach their best potential. So there is that silver lining that made us, more caring, because you don't know what happened to me last night. You don't know if I lost a family member. You don't know if I found out I got COVID today. So if you are mean to me today, you could just be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. So there is that silver lining, yeah.
So, I mean, if we have a look at it again, and going back in terms of your career, we spoke a lot about the drinking potential. There's still some drug use. I think stereotypically, if you speak to anyone outside of our industry, or anyone who's touched our industry in any way, the natural assumption is that all creatives are on something. They're all on something. Yeah. They're all on something out there as well. And that's been the natural assumption, because I guess, they say wherever there's smoke, there's a bit of fire. And it's true. It has been a coping mechanism. I remember I was at I won't mention where, but I was at this agency environment, and I remember one day going up to just use the bathroom, and there were still lines of Coke on the countertop, lines of Coke on the countertop that somebody obviously was forgot to take because they had maybe a couple, and then they couldn't finish
Take
the
any
lot.
more.
They couldn't take any more. But that's the reality of what we've seen and what we've experienced. We've heard the stories, and we heard about people pushing and having drugs. I mean, your thoughts as a young creative, as somebody who's in the industry, especially because I believe that each generation defines the industry for themselves, and your generation is now coming up and taking ownership as you rise up the ranks. Do you think that your generation, the generation that you've come from and that you're going to, and especially a few of those who might be a few years younger than you that you're close to, do you think we're taking this habit into the next generation of creativity, or are we leaving? Are we taking the alcohol and drug usage into this generation, or do you think now there's a new batch of creatives who are leaving it behind? What is your gut feel, and what are you seeing in the industry right now?
I think it's getting left behind. It's not cool anymore. Everyone knows that doing drugs is not cool anymore. Yes, like people do it.
Smoking is big, and now lots of people are quitting. Yeah.
Lots of people are quitting, even alcohol. A lot of people aren't drinking alcohol. You find the craziest creative that you're thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is tripping on MDMA and sipping tequila for breakfast, only to find out he's a vegan who doesn't even touch, you know what I mean? So and that's what I was saying about this generation. They're very conscious. They're very conscious about what they take into their bodies, what they feed their minds as well. The culture is a stress culture. I think alcohol and drugs are stress-related outlets. And there are different vices. I wanted to say that different people have different vices that help them cope with things. So I think this generation has found a very nice vice in the arts, again, like going back to the arts and making music. So a lot of writers are rappers now, when they come out of the office, they're in the studio making music. Art directors are in galleries, doing things. So the vices, there's no need to take drugs or drink alcohol to be able to express yourself, because naturally you're coming up in an environment that's allowing you to be yourself. I think what the drugs did made people feel like they're tapping into an alter ego. So you maybe you're not that confident, you can't present, you take a line of Coke and you have a shot of tequila. Now you are the Obama, now you can, be that guy. But no, this generation now, I love them. I call them the 2000s. I love them. They are leading in their own clean way. Clean living is the new drug for me.
It is.
Yeah. Because even with the swearing, with regards to our topic now, there isn't that much going around anymore. So remember, I spoke earlier on about the rock star generation. The rock star generation were the fuck it guys, the guys who saw all over and were like, I hate this and hate that. The kids now are just like, well, chill. Like, you act up and you start swearing at them, they're like, chill. Somehow maybe take a break, go sit down and come back and speak to me when you're ready. So now, like, I don't remember when last I used a swear word in a meeting, unless we were, chilling with colleagues outside and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm fucking tired. But that passive aggressive outlet is not necessary anymore. People are more chilled out.
Okay. And then do you think we're losing the rock star? So if you said that rock star generation, that mindset of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
We didn't speak about the sex part, that's in it, but that we covered last week. So we covered that last week, done and dusted. But I mean, that generation, and in terms of the work that they created, so here comes a tricky thing. Do you think we're still creating the best work? Do you think our work and our ability to think and solve problems is going to be hindered in any way purely because we're leaving that behind?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's a tough one, Preetesh. No, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. It's a different generation. So the rock stars we must also bear in mind that they did work straight after, the apartheid generation, and they had a lot of things to prove. They had a lot of, there was a lot of restrictions that they had before, so they had a lot to prove. Now, this generation doesn't have too much to prove. They can just be, so the creative that's coming out now is just honest. And I think it's going to take time for the people who are vibing with the rockstar generation to understand the new wave of creative, which in my mind is much more simpler, right? It's simple language, simple art direction, simple straight talk, because now you're speaking directly to people. You don't have to embellish things, so it's going to be different. It won't be the same. I think it's going to be cool for them because the target market is also evolving and changing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Society, if I can add, society keeps moving forward, and as society moves forward, you have to adapt to the needs of society at that point. I mean, we couldn't be all stuck in the 60s with that type of communication. We would be very bored, and we'd have really uninspiring, dull communication because it's stuck in a particular generation. I think what's really exciting about what's happening now, and stuff that I'm seeing, even from the entries from the Loeries this year, is the ability to adapt and cope, and still produce amazing work. Obviously, one of the big challenges as well, and going back to the key topic here, is that we need to do this in an environment where people's mental health is taken care of. So you mentioned that there's an in-house therapist, or there's access to a therapist within your organization. Are people actually taking up the offer to use the therapist? Is it now at a point where people are comfortable enough to say, I recognize I have some challenges that are weighing heavily on me from a mental perspective, and there's a trained professional for me to speak with? Or are they looking at it and going, I don't even recognize the problem, and I'm not willing to actually go and speak to this person? What do you see?
I think people do recognize that we've got issues, but I don't think, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, I don't think we know how to approach therapy, right? And speaking to someone. So I remember I had a session with one of the therapists in the agency last year, and I was just telling her, oh, this is what's happening, this is what's stressing me out. And I was expecting answers from her, and I was expecting some, coaching. And I think, I think that's what deters people from wanting to get therapy, because they feel like you're just going to tell them and they're not going to give you solutions to your problem. So I think, if anything, more like life coaches would be more attractive to people and creatives in general. Someone who can help you figure things out, because you sitting with your problem, you know it's a problem, there is a way out, you just don't know how to get out there. So the people want the help, they've recognized that they've got a problem, but I don't think people trust therapists, because it's an old white lady sitting in her house somewhere in Clifton, and she's just like, yeah, I hear you. Okay, so how does that make you feel? Whereas I want tangible, I want solutions. I want you to help me say, okay, I'm stressed out, I don't have time to myself. Someone should be saying to me, in your diary, put 2 hours a day, so that your traffic manager knows not to touch you in those 2 hours. You are going to be handling your personal admin. So I do think the old school way of saying, if you've got a problem, speak to someone, just a normal therapist, is not going to work anymore. We need life coaches. We need people to help us through things,
I think that's an interesting point, because, depending on the personality types in the organization, depending on the needs, you might actually need a mix of both. You might need you might need therapists to be able to tackle some of the deep-seated, deep-rooted issues that somebody may be dealing with. And you might need the life coach on the other side to actually help somebody plot a life path that reduces some of the mental health challenges that are actually happening out there as well. I mean, if you look at it, and again, going back to your journey, entering and not knowing what's happening, I mean, was there ever a point in your life and in your career where you went, I actually realized that I'm taking on so much and this is so challenging, and I'm generally just the stress is overwhelming? So not the regular stress that I know I'm feeling it and I can push through it, but it's so overwhelming and I can't deal with it. When was the point did you ever go through a realization like this? What caused it? Yeah.
I did. I actually quit advertising for a couple of months because I thought, this is not me. I don't want to do this anymore. It came after I had just had my son. I've got a 3-year-old son now. So I just had him. It was in 2018. So January now, it's time for me to go back to work. And I've got, a weaning baby. I've started building a home. And then I break my leg, my ankle. I broke my ankle. I've got my side hustles going on. I just felt overwhelmed. I'm still expected to come to work at a certain time, leave at a certain time, still be a super mom, teaching my child how to speak, teaching my, the juniors in the agency how I want, how I expect work to be done. And I was like, no, actually, maybe I was not cut out for this. And I was so depressed because I started thinking maybe I'm not good enough. Because I wasn't cracking briefs, I wasn't cracking jobs. I was just like, I'm just writing random content plans now. No one is taking me seriously. I don't even have enough time for my child. She just stopped breastfeeding because I was at work all the time. And I was like, oh my God, my child doesn't even like me. So I quit. So I broke my ankle and I quit. So I was like, okay, maybe let me try something else. And to me, something else was just freelancing because I think I'm a advertising addict. And I freelanced for different agencies. It's like, okay, this is cool. And then I went into the music video industry. That was cool. But then it clicked to me again, because your heart is your heart. If you've got a creative heart, no one can ever take that away from you. You can decide to become a doctor tomorrow, but you'll find yourself writing TV ads, in the corner. So it was a very tough time. And even getting back into it was difficult. But when you reignite your own passion, when you remember who you are and why you are placed on this planet, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But I think a lot of us do go through that, and I know a lot of creatives have fallen off the wagon because of the stress, and they're just like, no, I'm actually not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go be a receptionist at a bank, But yeah.
So how do we? So maybe as we draw to a little bit of close here, in terms of our chat, how do we keep people in the industry? So what are your recommendations in terms of, as a young creative, as somebody young in the industry, how do we actually find a way to help people cope with the challenges that they're experiencing so that they do not leave the industry itself?
Time management. So a lot of the stresses that my generation had when we were coming up was that, people were so tough on people, be in at 8:30 and don't leave before 5:00. So now I'm seeing it's already happening. I'm seeing a lot of agencies growing in that way. Be easier on people with like stupid things like, why am I in at 8:30 if I've done my work and I slept at 5:00 last night? Be easier, give people more flexible hours. And give people cool briefs, right? And this is more for clients, if they're listening out there. Just be easier on the agency and the creative departments, because we're all working towards the same thing. We want to see your brand win. We want to see your brand up there. So you being mean and being an asshole and flexing your clientness, which is cool. You are a client, you are the boss, you pay the bills, but you're making us scared to even, approach you with solutions.
Well, I don't know. So I'm gonna defend that side as well. I think one of the things that's important to highlight is, and it's absolutely important, is that on the brand side there's a lot of challenges, and I think it's not about, it's about this. It's about every side in this ecosystem realizing that everyone's fighting the same battle in different fronts.
Yes.
On the brand side, they're struggling to get the budget to be able to give the cool briefs. So they can't give the cool briefs if they don't have the money to be able to do so. If the brand is fighting to try and get the sales, to get consumers to spend cash with them, every person wants to be able to go out there and I think and make the best work possible. But it's not possible to do that if you don't have the money to do that. And then you also need to ensure that you're maintaining this brand equity that goes forward. So I think what we have to understand is that this mental health challenge in this battle is not just something that's
on all sides. Yeah. No, my issue isn't the briefs, right? It's just an approach. And let me not direct it to clients. I'm just saying to everyone who works with people, let's just be kinder to each other. So everyone must just be, be kinder. So if you're a client and the creatives come back with, they're so excited, they want to take an apple to space, and you're just like, guys, I just wanted you to come up with an SMS thing, there's a way to do that doesn't break them down and just make them feel like they wasted all their time, in working on your brand. And this also goes to internally, creative directors, ECDs. Don't make people feel like, like shit, just encourage people, give them time. That's why I started off with the time thing. So let's give people time and be kinder to each other is how I would say. I
think that's absolutely great advice, and I'd love to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Zamazwide Nxumalo, who's the creative director at Publicis Groupe, and I think that's good advice. Let's be kinder to one another. It's tough times. We need to take care of each other. Also, just a reminder as we end off, don't forget Loeries Creative Week is happening at the end of October. The week, look out for it. Lots of amazing communication coming through, and we're going to have lots of amazing activity in Cape Town. Thank you, City of Cape Town. Obviously, Loeries Creative Hour brought to you and connected by Vodacom. Thank you so much to Vodacom. Zama, thank you so much for making the time. So good to have you on, and I'll catch you in our next Loeries Youth Committee session.
See you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
I have some questions. Some big questions. Can we hate less and share more love? Can we keep going until we cure every disease? Can we make sure nobody is left behind? Can we find the courage to go further than we have gone? Can we change our ways before it's too late? Can we push our limits beyond the sky? With technology and humanity, we can go further together. Vodacom. I have some questions. Some big questions. Can we hate less and share more love? Can we keep going until we cure every disease? Can we make sure nobody is left behind? Can we find the courage to go further than we have gone? Can we change our ways before it's too late? Can we push our limits beyond the sky? With technology and humanity, we can go further together. Vodacom.